one of the things that makes this course unique is that I don't just want to help students get a 36 on the ACT, for example. Now, again, I want my students to understand something. No matter what you score on the ACT, don't worry, I'm not going to be disappointed in you. Please remember that. I want you to recognize that your score is not what will, I'm not going to say, oh no, that's really sad. No, I'm going to encourage you to do the best that you can, do on the exam. But please recognize that whatever score you score should not define who you are. The ACT is just one tool that colleges use, one metric. So please keep that in perspective. And so when I use the word 36, generally what I mean is, again, we aim for the best. We study as hard as we can. But even if we don't score 36, that's okay. But we do our best to study. And one of the things that makes this course unique, apart from just me telling you to aspire to be the best that you can be, is I want to talk about careers. I want to talk about career considerations. Why is this important? Because ultimately, think about it. Imagine if somebody were to score 36 on the ACT, but have no idea what they want to do in life, right? No idea what profession they want to go into. Then it's almost like they worked so hard to score so high and yet are not sure what to do. It just seems a little futile. So here's what I want to recommend. Throughout this course, there will be opportunities where I might talk a little bit about careers, but I actually have a separate course that I'm putting together that focuses on just careers and interviews some people, asking them questions about why they went into the fields that I went into. And so I just wanted to talk briefly about some tools to consider as you think about what profession you want to go into. Now, I have learned from many people from different backgrounds, and whenever I travel, I sometimes will ask the person next to me, oh, how you doing? And then we might get into the topic of professions, and then I would ask, well, what inspired you to go into that field, right? And so there's sort of different groups and different categories of decisions people make in terms of what professions they go into. There's a lot we can talk about this, and that's why, again, we have a separate course that is just focused on that. But let me drop a few nuggets for you to think about. The first thing to keep in mind is that people can know what they want to do when they grow up. They can know that as early as elementary school. They can know for a fact that they want to become teachers, for example. They can know for a fact that they want to become doctors or nurses or lawyers in elementary school. And now, that might be rare, but it is possible. Why am I saying this? Because don't belittle your passions. When you have passions at a young age, don't belittle them because you think, well, I'm just too young, so it might change. Now, if it changes, that's fine. But don't belittle those passions, because we are wired and designed in such a way that we can know at a young age, oh, I love teaching. In third grade, for example, I wanted to write math books in third grade. I wanted to help people understand mathematics in third grade. Now, if you've watched my video about, about the instructor, you see that I do write math and math programs, and I help students with mathematics. So notice that as early as third grade, I knew what direction I wanted to move towards. Generally speaking, for myself, the professions that I bounced around include being a medical doctor, being a teacher, being a scientist. There was a time where being a lawyer was an option, and I think it was just because I enjoyed debating with people. And so that's just, one person. Those are some fields that I bounced into here and there. Ultimately, of course, I went through elementary school, really enjoyed the sciences, and did a lot with the science club in elementary school, did a lot with the science club in high school, went on to study chemistry. So you can see that I was more geared towards that route. But my case is also unique because I do enjoy philosophy and literature and English, and so I love the sciences, but I also have a passion in history and so on. I mean, seriously, some days I'm like, maybe I should just start a college and sit in on all the classes, because I enjoy learning, right? And that's part of one of the things that you should also think about. Do you love just learning in an academic setting? Well, that might say something about what direction you should go into. So again, if we're starting from the top, let's take a step back and let's just write down what things you enjoy doing. Write down what things you're very good at. Write down the things that people have told you that you're good at, right? Write those down. Let's just make a list of everything that you really enjoy, everything that you're really good at, everything that people have told you you're good at, okay? Write down your strengths. Write down the things that you don't want to have anything to do with, right? For example, some people say, I don't want to have anything to do with blood or medicine. Okay, no problem. One down, 1 million careers to go, right? I don't know how many careers there are in the world, but I just say that as a joke that, okay, at least we've knocked out one. Now let's focus in on the others, right? Do you love working with people? Do you prefer not to talk to people every day at work? Do you enjoy coding or working with computers? Do you like technology? Do you like engineering? Do you like building? What field in building do you like? Do you like architecture? Do you like mechanical engineering? Do you like, civil? Well, I said civil engineering already, but let's say electrical engineering. There's all these fields. So yeah, one thing we can do is we can make a list of all these. But please, if you have a question about careers, do not hesitate to reach out. Take some of the assessments. There's other assessments too. And try those assessments. Keep those things. Keep thinking about it from time to time. I'm not saying you have to commit to become a neurosurgeon tomorrow, but just begin to think about it, right? So when you go to college, you have some direction. And for some people, they might go to trade school, and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you want to be an electrician. Maybe you want to be a plumber. We need to recognize that we need all these different jobs, right? Maybe you want to go into construction. Now, remember that your job is just one aspect of your life. That's the other thing you want to keep in perspective. So you might become a plumber who loves to read, classics, who loves to study Einstein's works. That's fine. Just because you have a job in a certain field doesn't mean that you can't explore and you can't be a lifelong learner. So please keep that in perspective as well. So again, there's all these professions. Make a list of things that you enjoy and make a list of some professions that you would consider. And then make a plan to shadow someone in that field if possible, or to have a conversation with someone in that field. Maybe you want to be a doctor. Well, make sure that you have an opportunity to talk with someone about that. Take them to lunch and ask them questions or send them an email. Maybe you want to go into, let's say, again, electrical engineering. Well, let's find someone who's in that field. And I've been blessed with the opportunity to have friends in many fields. And a lot of my friends have said that they're willing to discuss career topics with people. So if you want me to, get in touch with someone, let me know and we can do that as well. You see how providence also plays a role in careers. Now, again, some people know what they want to do at a very young age. Some people don't know what they want to do, but something happens where they come in contact with something. Let me give you an example. I know of, in my work in medical physics, I know of situations where I go to a certain hospital and I'm doing their annual physics testing, which if you want to know more about medical physics, I can, make a video on that as well. But I'm talking to people and I ask them, why did you become an X-ray technologist? Which is part of, the people I see as I do my medical physics testing. And they say things like, well, I went in for an X-ray and the person who was taking care of me did a good job, and I asked them, hey, what's your job here? And they say X-ray technologist. And then that person who got the X-ray done on their hand or their legs or whatever goes home and says, I want to do what that person was doing, right? And they go with that vision to become an X-ray technologist. So notice that they had an encounter and that opened their eyes to a certain profession. The same thing goes for MRI technologists and CT technologists and so on. So we can also figure out our careers by encounters. So we can figure it out by just a passion and a zeal at a young age or at some point in our lives. We can also figure it out by encounters. We can figure it out by a need in society, right? There is a need for nurses, for example. I'm just giving an example. There are some places that need nurses, full-time nurses, or they need CT technologists. And so you say to yourself, wait, there's a need. I'm ready to go to college. Maybe I should go to college for that so that when I graduate, I can go into that field. There are some fields where you will almost always, were guaranteed to have jobs of some kind. I've hardly met someone who is a physician who is open to living anywhere in the country say, I just can't find a job anywhere. That's very rare. Physicians generally, so those who are doctors or physician assistants and nurse practitioners, there's almost always opportunities in healthcare. Well, part of that is because people are living longer. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And so that is one perspective to keep in mind, is that people pick professions based on a need. There's a need and they go into a field to meet that need. So let's look at a few things we've discussed. We see people go into fields sometimes from a passion and zeal at a young age. We see sometimes people go into a field because of an encounter. with somebody in that field. We see people going into field because there's a need and they want to go and meet that need. Now, there are people who are entrepreneurs who say, I want to work for myself right away. I want to find a problem and solve it and be self-employed. Okay, that's great too. And there's books that discuss that. In different people in different professions, how they got into those professions, how they excelled in those professions. And so in my ACT course, I don't just want to help students get the highest score possible. I want them to begin to think about, what professions should I consider? How can I be successful in those professions? How can I make an impact? Those are some things to consider. And I hope that this video has been helpful in beginning the conversation about what should I do when I grow up? And if you have questions, thoughts, comments, don't hesitate to reach out. In the ACT course, I'll give you some nuggets here and there on career considerations, but there's a separate course just for career considerations. If you want to take that course by itself, let me know, where we will dive into several different majors, several different fields, and discuss with different people about why they chose what they wanted to do, and how you can make a good decision on yours as well, as far as your path in majors and so on. I hope this was helpful. This is just the beginning of a conversation. Thank you for listening, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.